Greetings, everybody. We are now going to begin the session, and the major paper is being presented here by our friend here, Zubair Ibrahim, and the title is Sectarianism, Shi'ism, and the Contemporary Conflict with the Nigerian Government. I think we have heard a bit of that yesterday, but maybe we'll look at it from another angle today. Zubair, you have got 20 minutes, starting now.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Ibrahim Zubair from Nigeria, University of Port Harcourt. I'm presenting on the paper Shi'ism, Sectarianism, Shi'ism, and the Contemporary Conflicts with Nigerian Government. Here's the abstract. Background to the studies. Before I commence the discussion, it is pertinent for me to make some clarification, particularly based on what was discussed yesterday by one of our colleagues here in person of Victor. Victor's topic and mine, they are of the same in terms of content. However, the title or the topics looks a bit different. You all agree with me yesterday that I mentioned at the course of his presentation that there are some basic linkage that needs to be done, and I think with this presentation, such linkage will try to be drawn. Shia came to Nigeria as early as 1979, but before then, Nigeria had experienced some radical Islamic movements vis-a-vis 1804, the Jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio. And also we have divisions and crises between Tijaniya and Qadriya Sufi order before Nigeria gained independence in 1960. The establishment and the rivalry between different Islamic organizations will also be of significant that we need to make some allusion in the course of our discussion. It was after these three events, we have the coming up of Shi'ism, which was hardly known before then until 1979 and 1980. The institutions in Nigeria was traced to the Islamic movement of Nigeria, that is IMN, which was actually mentioned by Victor yesterday. The movement was led by a renowned Sheikh Ibrahim al-Zakzaki, who was inspired by the Iranian Revolution of 1979. The IMN started as an Islamic organization and later metamorphosed to Shia organization. It has several disagreements with Nigerian authority when it was established. It has also engaged in theological disputes with other Muslim organizations in Nigeria. Currently, there's an ongoing conflict between IMN Shia and the Nigerian government. I think I have to mention also that IMN as a Shia organization is not the only Shia movement in Nigeria. We have other components of Shia activities in Nigeria, but our focus is on the IMN in Nigeria so that we can be well guided. This is seriously taking a negative narration, and urgent diplomatic intervention are required, which is the thrust of this discussion. Let's start with the historical analysis of a Shia or IMN in Nigeria. The Islamic movement, IMN, is widely described as Shia, Once the name is mentioned, IMN, the mind goes to Shia. And once the Shia is mentioned in Nigeria, everybody understands that the information is about Shia in Nigeria. They are linked. The movement ab initio, from the starting, describe themselves as Ahlus Sunnah. Remember, Ahlus Sunnah, the Sunni. That was their claim ab initio from the beginning. Later on, they are linked to Iranian through the leadership vis-a-vis Ibrahim al-Zakzaki's training during his course of undergraduate while he was in school and aftermath. The founder and the leader of the movement is Ibrahim al-Zakzaki, just like it was mentioned yesterday. His reputation for radical Islam dates back his undergraduate days at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, in 1970. The point I'm making is that Ibrahim al-Zakzaki, as an undergraduate student, he schooled in Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He had his own activities. While he was in school, he was also known as a unionist whose activities is on paper, and to that effect, he was expelled from the school activity as an undergraduate student. As a student, he was an active Islamic unionist. His involvement in several protests was one of the reasons he was expelled from the university, ABU Zaria. While he was in school, he rose to become a President General of Muslim Student Society of Nigeria. Muslim Student Society of Nigeria is an organization established by the students of higher institutions in Nigeria, having branches. They have branches, they have units, and they also have international structure. As Zakzaki, having been a student of Ahmadu Bello University, he will also become the president of that institution. Later on, he will also become the vice president general of the international body of the organization. These positions accorded him a great deal of international recognitions. Having been the vice president of international body of the organization, Muslim Students of Nigeria, he had opportunity to have linkages with international body. Coincidentally, it was the same period that Ayatollah Khomeini led the Iranian Revolution happened. As Zakzaki, in 1979, he rose to become the vice president general of the organization, and also it coincided with the Iranian Revolution. With this period, he traveled to Iran for further studies. It was this revolution that inspired Zakzaki to join the Shia faith in 1979. He was invited to attend conferences, rallies, and various training events relevant to Islamic oratory and revolution as early as 1970 and 1980s, before eventually he became the first Nigerian Shia cleric. It is not known whether we have Shia and as an individual Shia in Nigeria before Zakzaki or not. It was not on record until his emergence and when he went to Iran for his further studies. The sect and sectarian device in Nigeria. I want to make it known here that before Zakzaki or before the advent of Shia in Nigeria, there are sectarian and sect device among the Nigerian Muslims. Though Shi'ism is quite alien in Nigeria prior to the Iranian Revolution, however, there were sectarian and intra-Muslim divisions and conflicts in Nigeria. The first intra-Muslim conflicts led to the jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio. I think we need to also make it known that, contrary to the public opinion, that the jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio was a conflict between Muslims and non-Muslims and the pagans. Rather, it was a conflict between the Muslims and the Muslims. So it was a conflict between the Muslims and the Muslims. That is, the jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio was an effort to revive the Islamic practices that was invoked in Nigeria as at 1814. The second is the struggle between the Qadiriya and Tijaniya Sufi order. from 1820 to 1960. There was rivalry between the Qadiriya and Tijaniya Sufi order, which we shall mention as we progress. The third is the introduction of Izala. Izala is a Sunni group movement and a subsequent unification of both Qadiriya and Tijaniya Sufi order in 1979. The point I'm making is that Izala, popularly known Izala to Bid'ah wa Iqamat Sunnah, that's the full name, Izala to Bid'ah wa Iqamat Sunnah, that is the movement for the removal of innovation and establishment of Sunnah. That's the full meaning of Izala. Izala came on board as early as 1978 or 79. When Izala came up, it served as a threat to the Ahlu Tariqah, the people of Tariqah, that is Tijaniya and Qadiriya. The emergence of Shia gives a wider dimension to the sectarian division in Nigeria. Generally speaking, the Nigerian Muslims are presently divided along doctrinal lines, particularly between the Sunnis, the Sufis, and the Shia. I repeat, presently Muslims are divided along Sunnis, the Sufis, and the Shia. There are others who neither subscribe to either Sufi or Sunnis, and they neither join any Sufi brotherhood nor take part in Sunnis against Sufis, nor Shia, but living simply as Muslims. They pray like every other Muslims in the mosque. They also form their own numberless group and networks for socializing, dawah, and good work activities. Recently, there are other splinter bodies that identify with the Sunnis. These include the Boko Haram. We have the Quraniyun. The Quraniyun are those who claims that the tradition of the Prophet is irrelevant to the things of Islam. Rather, they base their Aqidah, their doctrine, based on Quran. Apart from Quran, they give no record to any other scripture. Sectarian conflict in Nigeria. The sectarian conflict between the Izala Sufi, that is Izala Sunni, and the Sufi order. Let's make a kind of a preamble or a bit of a expression. The Sufi or the Tariqah, they are also known as Tariqah. The Sufi, they are also known as Tariqah. Earlier on, there was conflict between the Sufis, that is the Tijaniya and the Qadiriya Sufi order. The Qadiriya came into Nigeria before the Tijaniya. When Tijaniya came on board, it served as a threat to the Qadiriya, trying to win more membership, trying to win more souls to their doctrine. That became a kind of a rivalry between the Tijaniya and Qadiriya. Later on, the Izala came on board. The emergence of Izala served as a threat to both Tijaniya and Qadiriya, because Izala stood vehemently condemning both Tijaniya and Qadiriya. Thereafter, Tijaniya and Qadiriya formed allies to fight against the Izala. The Izala, on the other hand, are the anti-Sufis, just like I mentioned around. It considered Tariqah as an innovative ideology and vehemently opposed to its operation in Nigeria. Some of the areas of conflict between Izala and Sufi are as follows. Salatul Fatih, that the Salatul Fatih praiseful supplication to the Prophet Muhammad, and other bid'ah, Shafa'a, intercession, bandiri, the beating of drums, and many others are things that the Izala kicked against and preached against. These are some of the teachings. These are some of the practice of the Sufi order. The friction between these two bodies turned bloody. These are Muslims. The friction between this body turned bloody. These ugly events graduated to a very critical point that it led to a physical assault between Muslim individuals and groups, leading to loss of lives and properties. The effect of the conflict: number one, disunity among the Muslims. Division of the mosque, the masajid, and congregation. The people of Izala will never pray in the mosque of the people of Tariqah. The Tariqah will never pray in the mosque of the Izala. Division of the mosque, the exchange of accusation of infidelities. Division of common social amenities like abattoir between Tariqah and Izala members. There are divorces in many marriages, severing of parental and other blood relations and mutual ties, discrimination among the Muslims and institutions of our learning, marketplaces and other avenues of mutual opportunities, the canalization of public and private properties and huge financial losses were so out of our control. Hence, the Islamic Brotherhood was countless, and the priority was given to the respective denomination. Instead of our Islamic Brotherhood, they give priority to the denominations. The conflicts linger since then up to now. The activities of the IMN, that is the Shia. From the inception of the Shia, the IMN, which was headed by Az-Zakzaki, it started as Sunni group because it was an offshoot of Muslim Student Society of Nigeria. What do I mean? Is IMN was carved out from the MSSN. MSSN being part of the Sunni group. The close association of IMN with Iran and the fact that several of their members were given scholarship by Iran government to study at the city of Qom led inevitably to the adoption of Shia doctrines. The activities, their mode of worship is the same with other Shia in other part of the world. It also includes demonstration organized on specific occasions, such as Qudus, annual event held on the last day of Ramadan, last Friday of Ramadan, Ashura, the procession of our Ashura day. These are part of the activities that the Shia or IMN engage in Nigeria. During this demonstration, their member blocks roads, major roads, making it difficult for the commuter to have free access to the roads, intimidated the public, and also including police, whose permission they do not seek. I repeat, the Shia, in the process of their procession, it is part of the recommendation that any procession that will take place, the members of the society, of the public, must be aware, and also the police officers must be given information. These were regardless. They disregard the security agencies. Hence, IMN represent anti-establishment movement that militate against normative religious practices in Nigeria. Abiodun 2009 note that the group has been known with, number one, its vehement condemnation of state and federal government, both military and civilians, that the movement is mostly interested in setting up an Islamic republic in Nigeria and give no regard to democracy. They disrespect the Constitution of Nigeria and refuse to recognize its law. The members of the movement were also known with their refusal to respect, number one, the national anthem of Nigeria and national pledge, and disregard for Nigerian national flag. They reject all symbols of Nigerian statehood, and many others were known with the organization. The activities also include the movement of establishment. The movement established its security forces. Apart from the Nigerian forces, they have their own security forces and provide training in arms, paramilitary services, defense, general policing for its members. All these are said to be an instrument for their struggles. Hence, the movement wants Islamic revolution to replace democracy with Islamic system. This indeed creates huge threat to Nigerian government. In an interactive with the current governor of Kaduna State, where Zakzaki resides, Malam El-Rufai stated that Zakzaki and his followers, fellow Shiites, had no regard for him as the governor, neither had they had any regard for President Muhammad Buhari. It was as a result of this anti-state posture that Zakzaki was imprisoned for 9 consecutive years between 1981 and 1989. This excluding the current detention that he is being charged. Because of his anti-government movement, the Shia remains a small minority of Muslims in Nigeria. Let's look at some of the chronological order of the activities of the Shia. The present conflict between the Shia and Nigerian government is embedded within large cycle of conflicts dating to 1980s, when the IMN leaders, Ibrahim Zakzaki, began to mobilize followers calling for Islamic State in Nigeria and cultivate relations with Iran. On recent accounts, in 2009, there was a clash between Shiite group and Nigerian police in Kaduna State during the Al-Qudsi procession, resulting in the death of 4 Shia. Also, two crises erupted in Zaria, Kaduna both in 2014 and 2015. Specifically, in July 2014, during another Al-Quds procession, there was a clash between Nigerian army and the Shiites. At this event, 3 of Azagzaki's sons and 34 others were killed, with an unknown members injured. In December 2015, Colonel Sani Usman, the Nigerian military spokesperson, announced that on 12 December 2015, the Shia member barricaded a road at the time when Lieutenant Colonel Tukur Buratai, Nigeria's chief army staff, was passing by. That is, on his way to the Kaduna State, he met the procession along the line. Instead of paving way for the COS, chief of army staff, to pass by, he was barricaded and he was prevented from movement by the Shiite. According to the spokesperson, the set, numbering hundreds and armed with dangerous weapons, barricaded the road with bonfire and heavy stones. Thereafter, it resulted into violence where the army fired several gunshots at the processions. This led to an episode that left about more than 100 members of IMN dead and the imprisonment of Azagzaki and his wife. The army accused the Shiite of trying to assassinate COAS and claimed that they had no option than to open fire for the group. The group also claimed that it was on his peaceful process that he was attacked by the army. On July 9, 2019, as part of protests seeking his release, the Shia demonstrator attempted to forcefully enter the National Assembly. This also led to another clash between the group and the Nigerian police. Further violence occurred on July 22, 2019, in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, with police opening fire on Shiite crowd, killing 11 demonstrators, as well as a journalist. A police officer also died at the hand of the Shiite. As mutual criminalization accumulates, the conflict becomes harder to resolve for the Nigerian government. As a result of instant clashes between the forces of government and the Shiite, on the 7th of October, the government proscribed the IMN as a movement. As I speak, the movement, IMN, has been proscribed by Nigerian government. The Shiite and Nigerian government conflict, a dialogue approach. As a way out, I hereby prescribe the following as a way out for Nigerian government in order to overcome the sectarian violences that engulf Nigeria nation. The various religious and sectarian conflicts brought about economic and political instability despite the abundant natural resources of the country. Losses in human and capital due to direct and indirect effect of the conflict is of its estimable dimension. Taking into consideration the level of destruction in the various conflicts and coupled with instant religious fundamentalist insurgencies, the Nigerian government cannot sustain the economic and the human losses. It's for these reasons that peacemaking and dialogue must take place in Nigeria. Factors that may motivate Shiites to be more volatile among the following are: 1, passive anti-Shiite decision by the government can motivate Shia movement to be more volatile. The theological disputation between them and other Islamic sects, their violent antecedent in Nigeria, the group revivalist mission, violating the fundamental human rights by the Nigerian government, the international support from Iran and other ideological bonded groups, the ultimate prosecution of their leader who is in detention, corruption and bad leadership are part of things that can trigger volatility of the group. IMN has its well-established structure of command with branches across all Nigeria. It also has more than millions members, the majority of which can be turned into agents of extremism and unleash crisis. A pragmatic approach to countering the impending threats must emphasize the need to evolve a counter narrative to engage anti-secular and anti-state violent doctrine, orthodoxy, and radical sects. Aggrieved radical movement takes longer time. We must appreciate this. For every radical organization, it may take a longer time for them to regroup. However, once they regroup, automatically it becomes so sophisticated indeed. The national counterterrorism strategy must be adopted. Hence, a soft approach to combating and preventing violence must be adopted. There's also need for provision of education and employment for the teeming youth who are easily used as cannon fodder to fan the embers of our bifurcation and violence. This is suggested for a sustainable peace, mutual coexistence, and growth in a multi-ethnic and multi-faith society like Nigeria. In conclusion, Nigeria as a nation is plummeting into a state of religious and sectarian tension and violence. This is obvious in the federal government's attitude towards Shiite minority. The Shia have shown some indications of adopting a violent strategy against Nigerian government. Hence, if the Shia crisis is not addressed through non-violence and diplomatic means, Nigeria may witness another ugly narrative. It is therefore suggested that the Nigerian government, in conjunction with major inter-religious faith-based organizations, should work to prevent conflict, mediate and promote tolerance and understanding among the parties, support healings and reconciliation, and work together in a holistic way to address the root causes of religious and sectarian conflict in Nigeria. Thank you very much for listening.